Force promo recorded January 24th.
What are you guys doing? You're supposed to fold the laundry before you watch television. I'll get it done.
Okay!
Today's families are undergoing change. There are many ways families can work out problems or try to prevent them from becoming a crisis. Watch Helping Families Help Themselves on Life Force.
Life Force Helping Families for January 25th or as scheduled.
Welcome to Life Force. I'm Verta Williams. In these troubled times, many families are undergoing change, some positive and some negative. As human beings, we tend to hide our wounds and hole up in the nearest cave when we really should be taking advantage of the many services offered in our communities. Join me, won't you, as we take a brief look at the ways that are helping families help themselves. In 1890, Beloit was an orphanage owned by the Norwegian Lutheran Church in northwest Iowa. In 1948, Beloit opened its doors to the Ames community and now serves a 9-county area in central Iowa. Under the auspices of Lutheran Social Services, Beloit has 18 satellite offices throughout the state.
At this point in time, our services range from rather comprehensive, intense residential treatment for emotionally disturbed children, which is housed on the campus here. Our other services, the primary services, are Beloit outpatient therapy or family and individual counseling, which is primarily housed here, but we satellite that at Boone and Jefferson and Jewell, Iowa. In addition to those two services, we have several workshop-type programs, the divorce workshop, and we have a premarital workshop for couples going into marriage and are developing a workshop format for couples who are married. We also have foster care, which we just started in the last year. And what else am I omitting?
The other part of that is the custody program, where we have developed a model for helping families determine their own custody decisions through what we call custody resolution counseling. We feel that's a lot healthier for families rather than giving the power to the courts to make that decision for them. So they work out how they're going to go on being parents for their child in a healthier way.
Yeah.
So your clientele is basically family?
Yes, we're very child-centered and family-centered, and so the focus of all of our services really are in that area.
What do your services cost?
Well, if we're talking about the outpatient program, the cost of our services are approximately $40 an hour, and I say approximately because if it's an evaluation, it'd be a little bit more than that. Groups, if people are being seen in groups, would be somewhat less than that, but that's the basic primary cost. Families certainly have ways to get help with those treatment costs. However, we have a contract with Central Iowa Mental Health Center in this area, in which they actually are purchasing from Beloit children's services and family services, so that a family who can't afford treatment costs are able to have treatment fees subsidized through that agency by the use of tax funds. We also work to help people use their insurance when that's possible.
What avenue of therapy do you use in reaching the children?
Well, we use whatever we feel kids are going to be able to use most effectively. And that can be play therapy, can be helping them in a group. We have activity groups. We have something we call a movement skill therapy group. Ways that kids can work on interpersonal relationships and problems in an active kind of way, using tools and wood or using their own bodies in movement skill. We also include kids in family therapy sessions, and they get very invested in participating as a family unit in what's happening within their family and how they can make changes.
Dennis, would you ever see a child without seeing the parents?
No, central to our agency is a focus on looking at the total environment of the child, and we tend to view the problems that children have as a result of their interaction with their environment, whether it be in their family or school, their playmates or what have you, their extended family. And so we feel that our major contribution in helping the child or in the parents deal with problems is to view that problem as a rather in a rather broad sense. And so we would not do that. We might tend to see a child separately, but never without the parent being involved, because we do feel that the family is a major vehicle for change, and certainly we want the parents involved because they're the ones that are having to work with and support and deal with a child, and can in all respects really institute the major change in terms of growth.
If you could say that there was a typical problem or problems, what would you say that most of the families bring into Beloit that they want to work with? What kind of problems?
It's really hard to generalize over most families, and I guess maybe I'd answer that by thinking about 3 age groups. When parents come in around their preschool children, their major concerns at that point are how they're parenting and asking for help with parenting, and also concerns about developmental, how their children are going through the early developmental stages. When families come in with children who are from 5 to 12, 5 to 11 in that age range, the major problems would be those of having trouble with getting along with friends, not doing very well in school, having a hard time doing what mom or dad or both of them are asking them to do. Sometimes kids in that age struggling a lot with losses they've had in their family. When you get into the adolescent age, the problems shift a little bit, and there's a lot of family conflict, a lot of struggle between parents and teenagers. Many of those really focus around teenagers' need to separate emotionally and to start becoming more independent, and some of the ways they choose to do that, and the struggle for parents and having them do that.
Now, you broke those groups into sort of age groups. If we were to go further and deal with single-parent families, dual-employed parents, what type of problems are they facing?
Well, families where there's just one parent, and increasingly there are a lot more families like that, or our families where both parents are working. They just have a lot harder job in terms of being able to provide the consistency and structure and security that their kids need, just because they also need to be dealing with a lot of their own needs and their own things, and maintaining responsibility with working kinds of situations. So conflict can occur even more easily. Kids can feel abandoned, not very cared about. They need a lot of reassurance.
Dennis, do we need more than one Beloit? Do we need more agencies in our communities to help families cope with their lives?
That's a difficult question to answer. We're all of us, including Beloit and other human service agencies, are busy. And I think if people that had problems felt free to come and came, we'd be overrun in serving people. So obviously we need more. Back to the question asked Ms. Paulson about a primary problem, I think a bottom line is usually a sense of being isolated, cut off, and alone. And I think there are a lot of services of a more preventative nature, support services for families, church groups, civics groups, recreational facilities, but somehow many people in our society are getting separated from those and not connected with them, and we have to find ways to get people hooked up and involved at an earlier stage if we're going to, prevent the problems from developing that are rather serious problems that bring people to agencies such as ours, particularly our residential treatment program.
Traditionally, families have sought support from relatives, neighbors, and friends. To such families, the Abbotts and the Elberts have worked out a dinner exchange.
Our dinner exchange is with two families, ours and the family that has the same number of children we do, which is 2 each, and they're about the same ages. We have dinner together 2 nights a week, one night at our house and one night at their house. When it's their turn to cook, we go to their house about 5:45 and sit down and eat. We don't take things potluck. We just sit down and they do the cooking and serving. We usually leave by 7, so it's not a commitment for the whole evening.
That's terrific. Is this an original idea, or is it something that you heard about?
We've been doing it for so long, several years, I don't remember where the idea first started. I know there have been other families in Ames who've done dinner exchanges before we did.
Are there other ways to do this dinner exchange?
I'm sure it depends on the family and the ages of the children and people's schedules and so on. We did for a while have a dinner exchange where we just traded the children, and it was an evening where the parents would have some peace and quiet by themselves. We would take the other people's children for dinner at our house, and then they could have dinner by themselves at home, or they could go out.
Oh, this is just a really terrific idea. Do you like it?
Oh, I love it. I love it.
Why?
It's great. It's wonderful to have a night a week when I don't even have to think about preparing a meal, and it's nice to be with our friends. We're all busy working parents. We have very busy schedules, and this way we have a chance to get together and visit regularly.
Are there any other benefits that you get from the dinner exchange?
Well, the children enjoy it most of the time. They try new foods that maybe they wouldn't have tried otherwise. They have a chance to go and play while we have our coffee and relative peace. Sometimes that doesn't work, but sometimes it does. It's just fun, and it's a big help to us.
Many times, stress can lead parents to verbal abuse, as witnessed in this dramatization.
Hi, kids. How was school today? Oh, it's good to see you. How's my girl? Oh.
We got after school.
Did you? Good. Really? Hey, how about the door? What needs to be done? Oh, would you go do that? Think you guys get your coats picked up now? And then you can tell me all about your day.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
What are you guys doing? You're supposed to fold the laundry before you watch television. I'll get it done.
Okay!
Hey, what's going on? I have a headache. I don't want to hear you arguing. Go to your rooms, please. Don't slam the doors.
I know you're under a lot of stress, but maybe if you could talk to somebody about it or go for some help.
Yeah, that might help a little bit.
You know, when you're under a lot of stress, it's hard to cope with some things. I'm sure the kids would like it if you could take it easier on them.
Yeah, I don't like yelling at him.
Kind of disrupts the whole thing.
Maybe I'll try and get an appointment with someone.
Hello, this is Charles Cole of Marital Therapy Associates.
Yes, I was wondering if I could talk with someone about some family problems I'm having.
Yes, I could probably fit you in this afternoon. Anna has an opening at 3 o'clock.
Okay. Where are you located then?
We practice in our home out in Squaw Valley. Do you know how to get here? Well, we're just north of town. You'd go out 24th Street. Do you know where the New Country Club is?
Are there any advantages to administering therapy in your home?
We think there are a lot of advantages to it. We like the comfort. We like the fact that we don't have to have a waiting room. We can schedule clients throughout the day, whenever is most convenient for them and for us. And we usually schedule clients with half an hour in between appointments so they don't run into each other. I guess we think that confidentiality is protected more through having it in our home. There's some disadvantages of never getting out of your home and having the demands of a home sort of competing, but I think the advantages outweigh the disadvantages.
Why is confidentiality so important? Are we still in the dark ages as far as seeking assistance with problems in family and marriage?
I think people are embarrassed to have problems about their relationships and about their emotional and mental health. I think we are sort of in the dark ages. People feel like they should be able to do it all on their own. And unfortunately, most people can't. In fact, I would dare say that there really aren't any people that can make it totally on their own. We need other people. And unless you're lucky enough to grow up in a family that your parents did everything right in terms of teaching you how to be an adult, how to be a married person, how to be a spouse, how to be a parent, and that they were very good at that, you have some things you have to learn. And where do you learn it? No one teaches you, and yet you're expected to be able to do that.
Let's talk about your clientele. What kind of problems are they bringing in?
I think the major thing today that we're seeing couples coming in with problems is the changing sex roles and the changing expectations that we have of marriage. Marriages are different today than they were even 5 years ago, and people are having problems keeping up with the transitions. And one of the major differences, and the thing that we spend a lot of time dealing with, is that now in marriage there's two votes. There's two people making decisions rather than one person making a decision. In order to be able to do this, you need to know how to negotiate In order to do that, you have to have communication skills. And as Chuck was saying earlier, most people need help because where are you going to learn these communication skills? And all couples seem to need some training in how to deal with anger, how to problem solve, how to make decisions when you have two people putting input in, two people who are individuals and not the same.
One of the difficult issues, I think, is that most people have no role models of how to be a family today, how to be married today. It's not like it was in our grandparents' era, where the expectations for the husband and wife were clear-cut. Husband's job was to provide a paycheck, and that was it. Wife's job was to take care of the house and the children. And if she did that, it was considered a successful relationship, a good marriage. People want more now. They want friendship, they want companionship, they want an emotional closeness that our grandparents might have gotten, but they might not have expected to the degree that we do today. People aren't satisfied with the superficiality of relationships, of just instrumentally taking care of the monetary needs like our grandparents might have.
How do we identify if we need to seek help?
I think if you see yourself going round and round about an issue and can't get any resolution on it, that it seems like you've gone over this 50 million times and you're not getting anywhere with it, I think that maybe just talking to a third person will break up that impasse. Maybe there's just a little skill in there that you need that you don't have that could get things rolling again. I think that we are seeing couples coming quicker, coming sooner after they're married, coming when they see themselves having problems.
Are children angry too?
Certainly they are.
Why?
They're angry because they're not understood. They're angry because they're pushed beyond their limits. It's the same reasons that adults are angry. Those are the two primary reasons that anyone becomes angry. They don't feel understood and accepted, or they feel pushed beyond what they're capable of at that particular time.
How do we push children beyond their limits?
Well, I think you could expect more than is capable of a person or a child of a particular age, and expect them to act like an adult when they're a child and they can't. Their patience, their ability to sit still are not what an adult would be, and treating a child as if they were a grown-up with good table manners at 5 years old may not be realistic. Maybe you want it, and maybe they do it some of the times, but other times they can't because there are things going on with them. They've had a rough day, just like you have a rough day sometimes. And it's harder for you to cope and harder for you to be nice to people when you have a rough day.
The Time Out Nursery in Spencer offers parents several hours on Tuesdays to take a break from their children.
Well, it started through the Trinity Lutheran Church and an organization called Citizens Awareness Council. And we decided that there was a need in Clay County for a place for parents to bring their kids, to drop them off and get a little time away from them. So we met with the church and formed what we call the Time Out Nursery. And it offers 3 hours a morning for a mother to bring their kids in and get away or go back home or do whatever they want to do.
Do the parents pay anything at all?
Yes, there's a 50 cents an hour per family. And that's if the parent or the family can afford it, they pay that. And if they can't afford it or that week they're short or whatever, then it's free.
Do you encourage Iowans in other areas to try to start a venture like this?
Mm-hmm. If they can, if they have volunteers that'll work with them, I think it's a good idea. I know in Kossuth County they started one up because of ours. They came over and asked us some questions, and especially now, there's going to be more families that need it, I think. More people unemployed. You always have a need for something like that. I wish there would have been something like that when I had little kids, just because it's hard to find a babysitter a lot of times.
Rhonda Christensen is not only the mother of 2 children, but an extension home economist as well. Rhonda, is it difficult for you to juggle parenting with your occupational duties?
It's an interesting task to juggle. Probably one of the hardest things for me has been the morning time in getting the children ready. And winter is especially a hard time. getting everything organized and getting out the door and getting to work on time.
How would you be able to relate this to some of the people that you work with? What do you think are some of the concerns that families have nowadays?
I think when we look at the two-paycheck family, there's one of the concerns that most parents have is that of providing a good care for their child or children while they're working. And this is something, when you think about that child spends really more time with that provider than you do. And so one way that we can help families is to help them look at how to select good care for their children while they're away from home, whether it be for the child that's infant or toddler age, or for the children that need some kind of care after school. Another thing, as I mentioned before, the morning stress, or stress at any time. It seems like there's hundreds of things to do for your job as well as when you get home, and knowing how to organize and setting priorities is important. Having enough money to pay the bills, and a lot of people need to look at that and weigh the fact if they're having a job, paying the babysitter is going to work out so that they can pay those bills.
Where do you think families can turn in time of crisis?
Oh, to other family members, to support groups. Maybe it's to their neighbors. We'd like to see them come to the Extension Service for help in area of budgeting, in the area of parent education, in the area of home maintenance, organizing. And one of the things that I think is real important when it gets into a tough economic situation and when you're working, you have your job and your family, is feeling good about what you're doing and feeling good about yourself.
Dennis Olson is a psychiatric social worker for the Northwest Iowa Mental Health Center. I asked him how he felt about families seeking assistance.
The thing that I feel most strongly about is that people do not have to live in a dysfunctional family. That there are choices, there are options that are available now. We know a great deal about what makes families work. We know a great deal about what makes families not work. And the risk and the opportunity is there to help these families get unstuck. Families have a great deal of strength, and their strength comes from their ability to handle the enormous amount of stress that they are handling. I feel, that it does not have to be that stressful. There are alternatives.
You know, if you do need help, don't let pride stand in the way. Seeking assistance can be the biggest gift you've ever given yourself and your family. I know it has been for mine. This is Verda Williams for the Extension Service of Iowa and Life Force.